today is going to be fake it until you make it. I meant to vlog yesterday and I got to school and I pulled out the camera and everything and then realized I didn't have the memory card for my camera. I could have used my phone, but I hate vlogging on my phone, so I didn't, which is probably for the best because I was a little off yesterday. I wasn't really feeling that well, you know, physically and just like mentally. Just, it was so nice to have a week off. That Monday was extra hard, so I didn't vlog at all. Yesterday was a minimum day, and all they did was their weekend wrap. We corrected their most recent Greek and Latin roots. My switch class started their iReady test, and then we started the process in both classes of peer editing the very beginnings of their narratives, which hopefully I'll get a chance to show you guys today. We didn't get very far in that, but from what I saw, it was going relatively well. I'm using this checklist from Teachers Pay Teachers that I bought. My sister went home yesterday morning. She's back safely in Arizona. Since Thanksgiving, the following day we went down to my brother's house because he and his wife are renting a new house. Like, this is their first house. They're transitioning from apartment living to house living. I don't know that I've said on here, but my brother and his wife are expecting in the next year, so they their lease was up and they needed a bigger space anyway, so they found a house. So we went to look at that. We worked out and just kind of hung out. And then over the weekend I did some grading. We went to see House of Gucci on Sunday, which was very good. It's a slower movie, but it was good. It was fascinating to know that information. And then yesterday came, and mentally I just feel like I was a little off yesterday because, you know, the holidays can be just a very tricky time for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, me included. Like, I could get through the holidays and be just fine, or the holidays can be very triggering to me in a lot of different ways. And I feel like this season the holidays are triggering me in different ways, a lot of different ways, and in ways that they haven't before, for a variety of reasons that I won't necessarily go into. Thanksgiving obviously was fine. I think what happens is on the day, like when I'm around family, on the day of, I'm not obviously being triggered for the most part. I mean, there were a couple comments, like innocent comments made on Thanksgiving that there was no ill intent behind it, but it was still like a trigger to me. But I also recognize that when, like, let's say I come home from the holiday, there's like this, I don't know, it's like a come down. I can't really explain it. Like, it's almost like you're in the high of like spending time with your friends and family in the moment, but then when you go home and you have time just like on your own to think is where it can become a little tricky. And I feel like that is what happens to me. So I've been a little off since then, and like, just, I think really just having anxiety of how I'm gonna feel when Christmas gets closer and if I'm gonna feel that way again. So the good news is I feel better today than I did yesterday, but I am still gonna have to fake it until I make it, like kind of find a way to present as if I'm perfectly fine, when really I'm just like, oh, I'd really love to just like lay on a couch right now. And while I was getting ready, I found this really great interview with Oprah and Tracee Ellis Ross. I think I've referenced an interview I watched with Oprah and J-Lo before. Like, I watched that around this time last year, that I found very helpful, just hearing a woman that's successful like J-Lo just talk about dealing with life as a woman, aging, having positive self-talk, etc. So I listened to it again yesterday just to kind of boost my spirits, but there were parts of that interview, the one with J-Lo, that I couldn't really, my car was speeding so fast my car shook, really relate to, because she touched on motherhood and things like that, and I'm not a mother, so like it's not something that resonates with me. So this morning I was like, is there someone else like that Oprah may have interviewed in this series of interviews, because they were like a series of interviews she did with women, that is more similar to where I'm at in life, like unmarried, doesn't have kids. And so the first person I thought of was Tracee Ellis Ross. I'm like, surely there's got to be one of those interviews. And sure enough, there was. And that was probably one of the best interviews I've listened to, like, for so many different reasons. Like, just some of the things she said were good things for me to hear and things for me to think about. And so I will try and remember to link that interview in the description box. I saved it because I know it's one that I'll watch multiple times. Just when I feel like I'm in one of those mental spaces where I'm like, I'm not doing enough, I'm not where I'm supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z, or I'm putting other expectations on myself that really don't need to be there. So that helped get the day started. And so now I'm getting ready to go in here, get myself ready for the day. Definitely check in and show you what we're up to as the day progresses, but that's how Tuesday is starting. That's how the week after Thanksgiving break is starting. So, talk to you soon. Ready? Hamilton says this: the Anti-Federalists seem to think that a pure democracy would be the perfect government. Experience has shown that this idea is false. The ancient democracies of Greece were characterized by tyranny and run by mobs. Okay, one more time. What do you think he's saying? The Anti-Federalists seem to think that a pure democracy would be the perfect government. Experience has shown that this idea is false. The ancient democracies of Greece were characterized by tyranny and run by mobs. What do you think he's saying?
I think he's mentioning Greece because they were run by a king, right?
I don't do ancient history.
What? Not a king.
You're a social studies teacher.
I don't, but that's not, as an 8th grade teacher, that's not the category that I teach.
So I think he's mentioning that they were run by mobs because those people wanted democracy because it was taken away from them. That's it. I don't really know what to say.
Okay, so Robert knows he's making some reference to Greece. Does it seem like it's a positive reference or a negative reference?
Negative.
Negative reference. What word in there should probably tell you that it's negative? Mob. Tyranny. Okay. Give table 5 a point.
I think that he's basically saying that the Anti-Federalists think that that not having a strong government will make the country run better, but it's shown like sometimes happen, like with Greece, they weren't run by one centralized government, and so he was saying that like they're run by mobs and that it just was chaos.
Mm-hmm. Do we know what a democracy is? A democratic government? Do we know what that is? It's what you're living in right now. So you're living in a democracy, a democratic government where it's for the people, by the people. And so he's saying that's what they think that they want, and they think that this is right, but actually it's what? Wrong. Because they tried it in Greece, and there was a whole bunch of what? Mob. Okay. You know what? Maybe that's my bad, because I think we were short on time. You aren't really conversating that much while you edit, so it's not like, and what is your story about? You're just reading it and going down the list. If after you do that there's like a point of clarification you need to ask, you can do that. But in all honesty, it should be pretty quiet because you're just reading each other's story and giving them feedback. So you're not reading it together, you're not reading it out loud, you're just kind of reading it to yourself. You're not asking them questions so they can fix it. You're just giving them an honest assessment of what you see so far, checking to see, do I see those features in the beginning portion of their story? Does that make sense? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. It is Wednesday, December the 1st. I turned on my camera after school yesterday to show you the things that I referenced in the morning. I think I talked about the peer editing, and I turned the camera on, but the battery was dead and it wouldn't let me record. So, but I'm gonna show you what I referenced yesterday today, and this is pretty much what we'll be working on. So yesterday went fine. I did kind of fake it till I made it. I felt better as the day progressed. I think Thanksgiving break was a tease, and I want more of it. But basically in language arts, they are peer editing the first portion of each other's narrative, which is the extended writing project for Unit 1 in Study Sync. And then simultaneously, I'm like introducing them to the next story, which is The Telltale Heart. And I am significantly behind the other people on my team, I think. But what I was referring to was this peer editing form that I found off of Teachers Pay Teachers. I'm trying to see if the store name is on the form, but it's not. So I'll try and remember to link it in the description box. But it just looks like this, and there's we'll say there's 3 different peer editing forms that come with this project. One is narrative, one is informative, and I think the third one is persuasive. So the person that's doing the peer editing puts their information up at the top, and then for the purpose of what we're doing right now, I just had them highlight these first few sections under organization, because this is a form for when you are going to edit the entire story. We're not there yet, so I just told them I wanted them to edit the beginning of the story and check to see, is there a title? If they have paragraphs so far, are they indented? Does the author introduce the characters, the protagonist and the antagonist? Does the author describe the setting, the when and the where, the when and or the where? And does the author introduce the conflict towards the beginning of the story? So that's the only part that they've peer edited so far. There's a yes or no column, and then any sort of commentary there. And they're doing this all digitally on Google Classroom. So I don't remember if I showed this last week or before we went on Thanksgiving break. I think I did, but just in case, I had them write their beginnings on this form here, which is from Step Up to Writing, which kind of walks them through the 3 steps of writing and engaging beginning to the story, or a hook as they refer to it. So they had to type it here, and so their peer editors are opening it with Cami and then leaving commentary there in digital format, and then any additional comments on the paper there. So that is what they've been working on in terms of language arts. And then in history, we picked up the lesson on the Federalists versus the Anti-Federalists and the constitutional conventions that were going on in the process of getting the Constitution ratified. We introduced that before Thanksgiving break, and then we jumped back into that yesterday using a Stanford History Education Group lesson. And so yesterday we read 2 documents. Document A is from, I never know if I'm saying this person's name right, Melicanton Smith, and document B is from Alexander Hamilton. They're obviously always familiar with Hamilton. And so we read these documents, and what they have to identify is, what is each person saying about representation in government? Like, what is the message that they're trying to bring across? Would they be considered Federalist or Anti-Federalist, which should be pretty clear because each document is titled Anti-Federalist Position and then Federalist Position. And also whether or not some of these issues are issues that are still being discussed in modern times, which I think is a good question. And so I always like reading this because the kids are familiar with Hamilton, and I'm like, well, you guys may be familiar with him because of the musical, and you may feel like you like him because of the musical, but some of the things he's saying you may find like things you don't like. And so we read both and discuss as we read. And then my favorite thing to do is there's this last paragraph with the Hamilton document where he's basically saying, you know, just because someone's wealthy versus poor doesn't mean that they're going to be any more eligible to be representative of their state, and that, you know, poor people are assuming that wealthy people are just inherently more wicked, which is a dangerous thought process to have. And then he goes on to say, look, there's bad people on both sides. There's bad wealthy people, there's bad poor people. But at the end he says, but it would seem to me that the behavior of the wealthy is less wicked and sinful. And kids always react to that because they understand what he's saying. So we talk about that for a while, just the fact that he's saying, you know, we're all rich, poor, we're all, you know, going through, we all do good, we all do bad, but the poor people are worse. And so we read the documents, talked about it yesterday, and then we also read our article of the week, which is on Sesame Street, because it was mentioned in Week in Rap that they are introducing their first Asian character. And this article is from last year, and it was just referencing how Sesame Street was putting on a special that tackled or talked about racism, because, you know, we were, not that we're not going through a lot now, but like last year was quite a year. So that was how the day went. And then after school, I watched and supervised the girls in their dance practice from 3 to 5. And then I went home, exercised, ate dinner, and did a little bit of grading. So that's how the day went about. I just have to remind myself that staying after school from 3 to 5 to monitor practice is temporary, because I have just been so tired. And I actually am able to get things done because, again, I'm just there to make sure everybody's staying safe. So that's what's up, or that's what was up yesterday. Today, we're gonna do leaderless discussion, which we haven't done in a while. And this is the part of the article of the week where the kids have to generate true discussion questions and respond to them well. And some of us are just not doing very well with doing that, not because we can't, but because some of us are choosing not to put forth our best effort. And then we're going to continue the lesson on the Federalists versus the Anti-Federalists and look at those documents a little bit closer. And then they're going to learn who Edgar Allan Poe is. They'll continue to peer edit. And then now that when they finish peer editing, the next step is they're writing the rising action portion of their story. So then they'll be working on that. So that's what we're doing. I'm gonna try and get some things done before the bell rings in about 10 minutes. So yeah. What's the question? Like what's the gist? Like, what are you trying to ask? Like, just basically.
Why does it have to be so direct? When it says like a white character told the black character that he can't be a superhero.
Like, why is it like just so like black and white?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what did you say in response?
They might do this because it's probably like the most common kind of scenario.
Oh, so is your question more so like, why are they only focusing on like racism between black people and white people and not like other?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you said because that might be the most common form of racism that people think of?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I have to agree with you.
Yeah, I have to.
It's kind of like common most of the time, like that happens.
There's not that much.
It happened a lot back then, and it still happens today. So, yeah, I agree with
There's
you.
barely any other races for other people.
Do you think that's true, or do you think that's just what we think about because like the history of the country, like slavery, people
Yeah,
always think of black versus white?
History.
Because I know there's other groups, like there's definitely racism amongst all groups, but I think it is true that that's just when people think of racism, those are the first two races you think of. So yeah, that might be right. Oh, was it really long?
Yeah, it was long.
Wrong question still.
All right, everybody think person number 2 in your group.
Thank you. For your long question.
Person number 3, raise your hand.
Hello. Now it's your turn.
Everyone turn your voice off. Okay, person number 3 is going to share their question. They're going to respond to it, and then you guys are going to discuss. Go. It is 5:03, and it is dark outside. I'm getting ready to leave. I'm going to try. I'm going to try and walk Riley when I get home. I hate doing it in the dark, but I also hate not walking him. So what I normally do is I will text my family to tell them I'm taking Riley out, and then I'll text them when I get home for safety reasons. But of course I'm here later because we have dance practice after school all this week and next week because our rally is next Friday. And today's practice, it was a little tense because for the most part I let the girls that have been pretty much running it just kind of run it, and I'm just kind of there keeping everyone safe and sound. But now we are at a place where the rally is next week, and we're not Like, and a good chunk of the practice was devoted to just like getting the dancers placed in certain positions and then adjusting that, and that was happening quite a lot. So that meant that was less time for the girls and for the group as a collective to practice. And me being the perfectionist that I am when it comes to trying to put on a rally that we can be proud of, just kind of had to at some point come in and say, either we got to get the formations finalized and just be done with it, or we need to have it so that everyone is doing everyone in the group is doing all the dances, which would mean we wouldn't have had to worry about formations. And so the two girls that are like the acting choreographers, I could tell they didn't love that idea. Because like the dancer in them was like, no, we need to have formations when we dance, meaning that there needs to be like some dynamic movement in the choreography. But I had to say, that's fine, but if that's what you want, we have to get that finalized by the end of this practice today. And then starting tomorrow, we're just doing the dance over and over and over again. So they were able to kind of get that solidified. And so they get to keep their formations, but that conversation was a little tense because I knew I was saying something that they didn't really want to hear. So that's how after school practice went. As far as the rest of the day, I continue to be proud of some of my students that have finished iReady because they have made a lot of growth, and you could tell they're very proud of themselves, and we've kept the tradition alive with anyone that wants to come and check their status and their progress and see where specifically they improved. They can do that. We give them 3 claps. I had a student in one of my classes who grew by 65 points, which is really, I heard a fly, which is really fantastic. So we did iReady in my switch class, and then both classes we did the leaderless discussion, gave them the whole speech about these discussion questions need to be much better than they have been, and they were. And I compromised and said, I will reduce the number of questions you need to write from 2 to 1. And I said, now given that one question should be really, really good and your response should be really, really good. And the questions that I heard as I walked around and listened to the discussions were good. So that went well, and that's promising. I did make the assignment worth more. And because leaderless discussion takes a while, takes a pretty big chunk of social studies, we didn't continue the Federalist and Anti-Federalist lesson from the Stanford History Education group, so we'll do that tomorrow. And then in language arts, I turned my computers off so I can't even show you. What I did is I showed both classes a little video from another teacher that is somewhere like in England or something that talked about the features of Gothic literature. I showed my switch class that yesterday, but my homeroom class that today because we were behind. And then in both classes, I showed them a quick TED video on Edgar Allan Poe so they can acclimate themselves to who he is, and then the rest of the time they peer edited it, like I think I said this morning. So that brings me to the end of the day. And I'm supposed to pick up a Target order, so I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna walk Riley. I need to pick up my Target order and exercise and try and grade. So that is how my Wednesday went. It's 5:05. I've been in my classroom for a little bit. Dance rehearsals ended at 4:30. It took until about 5 o'clock for all the kids to be picked up. And then I came back in here to make sure I have stuff ready and up and running for tomorrow, which I believe that I do. Today's dance practice went much better. I would obviously vlog it if I could, but I can't because of privacy for the kids. Much more organized, like kids know where they need to be for the most part. The choreography is getting better in the sense that they're becoming more and more in unison. And while they were practicing, one of the PE teachers walked in and she was like, can I see, like, can you guys do it for me so I can see the dance? And they did, and she had tears in her eyes. She was so proud of them and let them know. And then that made them really excited and proud of themselves, especially the 8th grade girls that like choreographed everything and put it together. So that was really nice. And then we transitioned to practicing outside. I don't know if I've said, but this rally is gonna be held outside. We normally have done them inside, but because of COVID, we're moving it outdoors for safety issues. So that's just another level of anxiety because we've never done that before. So that was how that went. As far as today is concerned, I was gonna vlog earlier, but I was just like in a productivity role. I wanted to get some grades entered. I still have grades to put in, but there were some grades that I really wanted to hurry up and get entered, like their AR tests and all of that. So I got some grades entered during my prep period. And then I made an executive decision. I told the kids with language arts, our next story is The Telltale Heart. But I decided to pause on that. So all I've done is introduced elements of Gothic literature using a video that I showed them, and then showed them a short TED video on Edgar Allan Poe. And so today I was supposed to do the actual first read of A Telltale Heart. And then yesterday at home I realized we don't have time to get through everything before winter break, and I don't want to be in the middle of that story and then go away for 2 weeks and then come back and try and have them jump on board. So instead, I don't know why my lighting keeps going in and out. The kids between now and winter break are gonna focus on their story, and we're gonna read All Your Twisted Secrets. My goal, I told them, is to finish that book by 2022. If I were to say something that's not working, it's us reading that book as frequently as I would like. But you know, at least we're reading it. And then in history, we finished up the Federalists versus the Anti-Federalists lesson. And they were just filling out a graphic organizer. I can't remember if I showed this to you guys yesterday. So I will just show you one of them. Let me make sure I don't have names showing. There's quite a few kids that haven't turned that in yet. They better hurry up and get to it. And for some reason, this assignment loaded itself in there upside down. As you can see, like, it's just in there upside down. I didn't do that. Cammie just decided that was the way that it wanted it. So let me rotate this. So they get this graphic organizer after they've read document A and document B. Document A represents the Anti-Federalist position, which were the people that did not want a strong centralized government, wanted the power to remain in the hands of the states more so than a centralized government. And then the Federalist side with Hamilton, who favored having a strong centralized government. So they answered these 3 questions. Is this person happy with how the new Constitution deals with representation? What kind of government would this person like to see? I had them skip this because I had them cite text evidence in their answers up here, so I felt that this was just redundant. And then the third question was, based on this document, what sort of people in society would support this point of view? Wealthy people, poor people, etc. So they got to work on that as a group. And I will say in both classes, I feel like I really was happy to hear like the conversations they were having, because you could tell they were really thinking it through. They had very clear reasons. They understood that Anti-Federalists or people that would have supported that side were more than likely going to be the poor people, the farmers, and then the Federalist position would be most likely supported by people that were wealthy and educated, and then making sure that they knew that if you were educated in that at that time, had a college degree or an advanced amount of education, then more than likely you were wealthy, because you needed to be wealthy to have the time to even go to school. And they cited appropriate text evidence, so I was pleased with that. And my first class was able to work on their story a little bit. My second class wasn't, because this history portion took them a little bit longer, but I told them that's fine, but they have to manage their time then as far as getting the rising action portion of their story done. And some of them said they were already done, and some of them were like, that's fine, I can work on it at home. And that's pretty much all we got through. My first class, which is technically my switch class, and I normally see them in the afternoon, but I'm seeing them first so they can work on their iReady test. I continue to have students in there that have made very significant amounts of growth. One student today came, she was so excited. She came after school to tell me, because she hadn't finished her language arts test in my class, she finished it in Miss Lawrence's class, and she came back and she had grown 55 points, which is really good for her, because she's, you know, a higher functioning student, and it's harder to gain points like that when you're pretty much functioning at grade level, if not close to it. So of course I gave her a high five, and I was joking around. I was like, is it you or is it me that got you those 55 points? And she laughed and she's like, I think it was both of us. And I said, you're right. So that's good. I have a few kids that are still not finished. that's all I'm going to say about iWriting. There's been some interesting commentary from the powers that be in relationship to iWriting. Now that some teachers are showing, like, look, my kids grew, and the performance I'm seeing now this year that I got to keep my own kids in my class for that universal access period exceeds the growth that I've seen before when we had to intermix. And then the response to that was just interesting. So, but that's how the day went. I'm gonna go home. I actually need to hurry up and go home because Bath & Body Works is having their annual candle sale, and online that starts today at 6 p.m. No, at 9 p.m. Eastern time, which is 6 o'clock for me, and it's 5:12, and I need to pick up something to eat, so I gotta get going, which means I don't think Riley's getting a walk today because then it'll be too late. So, yeah, that's it. I guess I was like, is there something else I'm supposed to say? I don't think so. But, so that's it. I'm gonna shut everything down here, and then I'm gonna go do those things, and I will talk to you tomorrow. It is Friday. I am here to close the vlog. I actually thought I was gonna vlog on the way to school this morning, but my iPad, which is what I use when I'm in the car, had 1% battery life, so that plan was quickly abandoned. And then of course during the school day, I can't really vlog too much right now because I have to really make use of my prep time and the time that I have before school, since after school I'm supervising, and at this point I can't really work while I'm doing this. Supervising, redirecting, and monitoring the kids that are practicing the dance after school, because now we're getting to the point where we're finalizing things, and so I feel like I really want to watch it intensely and give constructive feedback. Even though the girls that have choreographed it are taking a lot of the lead, there still needs to be my eyes on it, because the rally is next week and the quality of things really is reflective of the leadership class, but also my ability to advise those students. So, you know, my name is on the line, so I gotta pay attention. So I don't get much done, or I haven't been getting much done during that time this week. So, yeah, but as far as today was concerned, the focus was making sure everybody finished their iReady test, and everyone in my classes did, with the exception of kids that have been absent, and there's nothing I can do about that. And then besides that, they took their Article of the Week quiz, and I just pull these quizzes straight from Newsella, and I turn them into Google form quizzes, so that they can easily be graded for me. So it's kind of a pain to make the quiz itself, but at the same time, I don't have to develop the quiz questions and the answer key, because that's already all done for me. And I use the free version of Newsella, and I'm gonna try and not be lazy and actually show you this, so I feel like I'm giving you something to look at this vlog. Because I don't know what this vlog is gonna look like, because I feel like my time has been so limited, and I don't know how much I've been able to show you, and if what I've shown you is anything you even care to see. But this week, our Article of the Week was on Sesame Street, because the Week in Rap talked about how they are introducing their first Asian character to their cast of puppets. And so what I normally do, if you're new here or you forgot, is I will find a news story or pull a news story from the Week in Rap, and then I'll find a related news article in Newsella. And sometimes the article is super current, meaning that it was written like within the last week or month or whatever, and sometimes it's not. And this is one of those cases where this article is not as current, because this was written last year, but it is about Sesame Street, and it is about just the concept of inclusion. So I found this article, so I always print the article out for them, and we use it all week and annotate for different things depending on the day of the week. So this one was titled "Speak Up, Sesame Street Tackles Racism in TV Special." And then if you go over here, and again, I'm using the free version, so I'm not paying any extra for this. I don't think I'm paying for this, and I don't think the school is paying for it. If you go over here, there's activities, and one of the activities is a quiz. And so far, the quizzes are always 4 questions. They give you the questions, they tell you what the correct answer is, and I like it because it just forces them to dig even deeper with comprehension of informational text. And so what I do is I will then take the quiz, and I will just create the quiz using a Google form. like I said, just to make my life easier. I obviously can't share this with you because this is not my work. It's just me creating something to make my life more efficient. So I make the form, I make it match what the quiz is about. So it was Sesame Street, so there's that. And put the title, give them directions, tell them they should be using the text when they are answering these questions. They have to put their first name, last name, which class are they in, and then there's the 4 questions. And this is made as a quiz so that it's graded for me. And I always forget where that is. Okay, this is promising because these scores are looking better than they were in the past. And I made the setting that once they answer the questions, they don't get to see their results, which they don't love. But I do that because some kids, not all kids, but some kids are tempted to cheat because if you release the answers to them right away, they know which one they missed, which ones they got right, and they know which ones are correct. And because I have classes at 2 different times, I just like to eliminate any possibility that someone would be inspired to go to their friend and say, hey, here's the answers to the quiz. So they don't get their scores until I release the scores through the Google form and or I put it on Google Classroom, depending on what they look at first. So I've only been doing this for a few weeks. I like it. It does take time for me to create the quiz, but I do save them. I don't know that I'll necessarily use the same quizzes every year because the current events are not going to be the same every year, but I just save them just in case. I want to use the article again. So they did that, and then they did the take note activity with the article of the week where they annotate and evaluate the information, and they respond to one of 3 questions. One asked, like, is anything about this article puzzling or challenging for you? Is there something that stood out in particular? And then I can't remember the 3rd question, but I know I've shown that before. So we did that. They had a little bit of time to work on the next portion of their story that was due today, which was the revised beginning and the rising action events. And in my first class, they got to read All Your Twisted Secrets, like 2 chapters worth. And because I didn't want to make them have to do too much because they just finished iReady testing and they had writing that was due. And then in my second class, they didn't get to read All Your Twisted Secrets because we had a lockdown drill. For like active shooter, which is sad that we even have to practice these. And when I said we had a drill, like once it was like, yes, like I don't even know why he was so excited, because it's not like a drill that we leave class, but he was like, well, we just can stop doing work or whatever. So I let him be excited, but then I also just kind of brought him back and said, guys, like, we really do need to take these seriously because this, unfortunately, is something we have to be concerned about, and it's becoming more and more of an issue. And just this past week, there was another shooting at a school. So that kind of sobered them up and got them to focus. And we talked about the scenario they gave us, which was someone being on campus that has been asked to leave, but they won't. And they seem to be agitated and upset, but we don't know where they are. And so we talk through, what should we do? Where would you go? If we were in the classroom, what are the procedures we need to take? Where can you hide? If you're outside and you hear that announcement, what should you do? Where should you go? How should you handle yourself? And so then they come on the intercom and say the drill has started. And I told my kids, like, you better take this seriously. I want to hear no one talking. Not a peep, not a sound, not a nothing. I don't want to feel like you think this is a joke. And because of where we're at, we have a lot of different options as to where they can hide. Like, they can hide in the pod. There's other classes nearby that are unused that they can hide in. I assigned one student that was near the door. I told her, your job is to pull down the paper shade, because that's why we have those there. So she knew how to unclip them, pull it down, and just really said, if you were a student that's seated there, that should be one of the things that you try and get done. Pull that shade down so that no one can see in the class. And then the student that was sitting here, right there, I told her her job was to pull the paper shade down that's there. And so they did that. And then after that, as soon as the drill started, everybody was able to go wherever they wanted to. Some kids stayed here, some kids hid in the pod, some kids hid in these other classrooms that we have access to, and they did a good job. They were quiet. Of course, there was like a couple of kids like giggling because they chose to sit next to a friend. So when we debriefed how they did. I said, you know, it may not be the best idea to sit next to your friend when your life is on the line. But that was really it. It was almost crickets. I was kind of surprised as to how long they were able to just stay quiet because the drill took a minute. So yeah, that is the day. And then the day ended and we had dance practice. So the kids are getting excited. I'm feeling more and more comfortable each day. And next week it's just going to be us running through that rally over and over again. And I let the kids in leadership know you're going to be stressed next week. As am I, because that's just the way that it is. So there might be a chance of rain on that day, a very slight chance. And if that's the case, we're going to push it to another day. But we're going to assume that that's not going to happen. And that's that. So I'm going to go home now. I am not ready for Monday, which is not what I like to do. But I have to accept that times are a little challenging right now at practice. So I'm going to go home, walk Riley, exercise, try and at least get ready for Monday. Maybe try and do some more work and just go from there. So that is the end of this week's vlog. I'm sorry if it comes out just choppy all over the place with minimal like concrete information to give you, but that's just kind of where I'm at right now. If you enjoyed this week's vlog, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. And if you're not following me on Instagram, please head over there at Smarty Style. I would love to have you. And as always, I hope that you are well, and I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.